Family. It's such a small word, but it holds the entire world inside it. If someone asks me what home means, I don't point to walls or furniture. I think of faces, voices, laughter, and even arguments. My family isn't perfect, but they are my foundation. Today, I want to share everything about them, who they are, how they shaped me, and the small little things that make them special. Maybe as you read this, you'll see pieces of your own family too. I grew up in a small but lively house. It wasn't fancy. Our kitchen tiles were chipped, the sofa had scratches from our old cat, and there were always mismatched mugs in the cupboard. But it was warm. It smelled like Mom's cooking, like fresh chapati and spices that clung to the curtains. It echoed with voices, sometimes loud, sometimes soft, but always familiar. My family has 5 people: my dad, my mom, my younger sister Mira, my grandmother, and me. Each of them is like a different color, and together they make the painting of my life. I can't imagine who I'd be without them. My dad is the quiet strength in our home. He's not the kind of father who shouts instructions or makes big speeches. He's the kind who wakes up before everyone else, sips his tea while reading the newspaper, and goes to work without complaining, even when he's tired. He's a man of routine: 6:30 a.m. tea, 7 a.m. bath, 7:30 a.m. ready for work. Some people might find that boring, but for me, it's comforting. I can hear his footsteps in the morning before I even open my eyes, and I know everything is okay. He doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, his words stay with me. Once, when I was struggling with school, I remember him saying, "Life is not about winning every time. It's about not stopping when you lose." He said it simply while peeling an orange, like he wasn't trying to be wise. But it stuck to my heart. Then there's my mom. She's the opposite of Dad in many ways. She talks, she laughs, she scolds, she worries. She has a heart that feels everything too deeply. When I have even a small fever, she hovers with endless cups of soup and warm towels, as if I might shatter if she looked away. Sometimes it's too much, her worrying, her constant reminders. "Don't forget your umbrella. Did you pack lunch? Did you finish that homework?" But now I understand. That's her love language. That's how she protects us. Mom is also the center of our house. If my dad is the strong pillar, she's the warm fire. She's the one who remembers everyone's birthdays, who decorates the house for every festival, who keeps the fridge stocked with our favorite snacks. Her cooking is legendary in our family, I swear. Her dal tastes better than anyone else's. Not because of some secret ingredient, but because she stirs it with care. My younger sister Mira is, well, she's chaos and sunshine rolled into one. She's 4 years younger than me, but she acts like she's the elder one sometimes. She's stubborn, loud, and endlessly curious. She asks 100 questions a day. When we were little, she'd poke her finger in my books and ask, "What's this word? What's this picture? Why is the sky blue? Why do you have to study?" Even now she barges into my room uninvited, stealing my charger or borrowing my clothes without asking. We fight almost every day, but if anyone else says anything mean about me, she's the first to defend me. That's the thing about siblings. We fight like enemies, but love like best friends. And then there's my grandmother. She's small and wrinkled, but her presence is big. She tells stories, not just the kind with kings and queens, but stories about our family's past. How she grew up in a village, how she got married young, how she raised my dad with almost nothing but courage and grit. When she speaks, her voice slows down like time itself is pausing to listen. Her stories aren't just entertainment. They are history, memory, lessons. I often sit next to her in the evenings as she folds clothes or peels garlic, and she'll slip into stories without even planning to. "Did I ever tell you," she'll say, "how your father walked 3 miles to school every day because there was no bus?" And just like that, I'm transported to another world, muddy roads, barefoot kids, dusty books. My grandmother also has this old wooden trunk in her room, full of strange treasures, faded photos, yellowed letters, broken bangles, coins from years ago. Sometimes she lets me look through it, and each item feels like a portal to the past. She'll hold up an old photo and say, "This was your grandfather. He used to sing to me every evening." Her eyes will go soft when she says that, and even though I never met him, I feel like I know him a little. Growing up in this house meant every day was a mix of small dramas and big love. Breakfast conversations, shared chores, festival preparations. It all became the rhythm of life. Mornings were always busy. Dad reading the paper, Mom shouting from the kitchen, "Hurry up, you'll be late for school!" Mira and I scrambling for missing socks or homework pages. The smell of toast or parathas, the clatter of dishes, the sound of the radio playing softly in the background. It was chaos, but it was our chaos. Evenings were quieter. We'd all gather for dinner, and that's when the magic happened. We didn't have fancy family meetings, but dinner was where we shared our worlds. Dad would ask, "How was school?" and Mom would remind him about bills or groceries. Mira would talk nonstop about her friends, her teachers, her tiny adventures. Sometimes we argued, sometimes we laughed so hard we couldn't breathe. Those dinners shaped me. They taught me to listen, to speak, to connect. Festivals were another kind of magic. Our house transformed during Diwali, with strings of lights on the walls and the smell of sweets in the air. Mom would make laddus, grandmother would chant prayers, Dad would carefully hang decorations, and Mira and I would argue about who got to light the most diyas. Holi meant colors on our cheeks, laughter echoing through the yard, and clothes stained beyond repair. Every celebration felt like a reminder. We might not have everything, but we have each other. But family isn't just about the happy moments. There were arguments too. Loud ones. My parents fought sometimes about money, about responsibilities, about stress. I remember once they had a big fight, and I sat in my room holding Mira's hand because she was crying. That night, I felt like the walls were shaking. But the next morning, Dad still made tea, Mom still packed our lunches, and life went on. That's what I learned. Love isn't about never fighting, it's about coming back after the fight. I also fought with my sister almost daily. We fought over the TV remote, over the last cookie, over who got the bigger slice of cake. Once she broke my favorite pen, and I didn't talk to her for 2 days. But then she slipped a note under my door, just a paper with a badly drawn, sad face, and suddenly I couldn't stay mad. As I grew older, my relationship with each of them changed. I started to see my dad not just as dad, but as a man, with worries, sacrifices, and dreams he set aside for us. I noticed Mom's tired eyes after long days, and I realized how much she carried. I saw Mira not just as an annoying sister, but as someone who looked up to me, even when she pretended not to. I listened more to my grandmother's stories, knowing one day her voice might fade. Now, when I look back, I see how each of them shaped me. Dad taught me steadiness, Mom taught me care, Mira taught me patience and how to argue. Grandmother taught me the importance of roots. Sometimes I wonder, if I was born into another family, would I be the same person? Probably not. Family isn't just who you live with, it's who you become because of them. Even now, whenever I leave home for a while, college trips, work visits, there's this moment when I step back into the house and everything feels right again. The familiar smell, the sound of Mom calling out, the sight of Dad's slippers by the door, Mira's messy room, Grandmother's slow steps in the hallway. It all feels like a hug. My family isn't perfect. We have flaws, fights, and frustrations. But if you ask me what my greatest blessing is, I'll say it without hesitation: my family. After sharing what my family means to me, I realize there are so many untold moments, little threads that weave the bigger picture of who we are. Some memories are bright like sunlight, some are soft and quiet, and a few are heavy, but together they tell the whole truth of my family. I still remember the first time I really saw my dad as more than just a parent. I must have been around 12. One rainy evening, he came home later than usual. His shirt was damp, his shoes were muddy, and he looked exhausted. He didn't complain, just went straight to the bathroom, washed his hands, and sat quietly at the table. I was doing homework, and Mom was busy serving food, but something about his silence caught me. That night, when everyone else was asleep, I heard my parents talking in low voices. My dad said, "I don't know how much longer I can keep working overtime like this." It hit me then. He wasn't a superhero. He was just a man, tired and human, pushing himself for us. After that, whenever he left for work early or came home late, I saw the effort behind it, the quiet sacrifices he never pointed out. One Sunday morning, years later, I asked him, "Dad, do you ever wish you chose a different life? Something easier?" He looked at me for a long second, then smiled slightly and said, "No, because this life gave me you all." That's how he is. Few words, but they land deep. My mom's love has always been louder, more obvious, but there's another side to her too, a softness I started noticing when I grew up. When I was younger, she seemed unstoppable. She'd wake up before dawn, cook, clean, go to work, help us with school projects, call relatives, organize festivals, like a whirlwind of energy. But as I grew older, I saw moments where she sat quietly, rubbing her temples, or staring out the window for a little too long. One evening, I found her sitting in the kitchen after dinner, lights dim, hands still wet from washing dishes. I asked, "Mom, are you okay?" She looked startled, then smiled quickly and said, "Of course, just thinking." I realized something that day. Mothers carry a lot of things they don't say out loud. Worries about money, about us, about the future. They hide their heaviness behind busy hands and warm smiles. So I started helping her more, not because she asked, but because I wanted to. I learned her little habits, how she hums while making tea, how she double checks the locks before bed, how she always serves food to everyone else before herself. Sometimes, when I hug her tightly, she says, "What's this for?" And I just say, "Nothing." But inside, it's for everything. Mira, my little sister, has been my partner in both trouble and laughter since the day she was born. When we were kids, we used to build pillow forts in the living room and pretend they were castles. She always wanted to be the queen, and I had to be the loyal guard. If I refused, she'd cry until Mom came in, and guess who always got scolded? Me. But there are moments with Mira that are burned into my heart, like the time I failed a big exam. I locked myself in my room, embarrassed and upset. Everyone tried to console me, but their words felt heavy. Then Mira slipped a chocolate bar under my door with a note. "You're still the best in the world." I didn't even like that chocolate much, but I cried while eating it, because it wasn't about the chocolate. It was about her saying, in her own little way, "I love you, no matter what." As we grew up, we fought less about toys and more about opinions. Sometimes she thinks I'm too serious. Sometimes I think she's too carefree. But under every argument, there's an unspoken truth. We'd defend each other against anyone else. Once, someone made a rude comment about me at a school event. Before I could react, Mira stormed over and said, "Don't you dare talk about my brother like that." That's Mira. She'll annoy me endlessly, but if the world tries to hurt me, she'll turn into a lion. And then there's my grandmother, our living history. She's the storyteller of the house. Her voice is slow and textured like an old song. Sometimes when she talks, you can almost see the past in her eyes. She often says, "Life was different when I was your age." And she paints pictures of that life. How she fetched water from a well every morning, how she learned to cook on a wooden stove, how she waited weeks for a letter from a loved one. One story she tells often is about my father as a boy. He was quiet, she says, but stubborn. If he wanted something, he'd work until he got it. I like hearing these stories because they remind me that my dad wasn't always dad. He was once a little boy too, just like I was. Grandmother has her rituals too. Every evening she lights a small oil lamp near the doorway and murmurs a prayer. She says it keeps the house safe. I don't know if that's true, but the warm glow of that lamp has always felt like a shield around us. Life with my family isn't always perfect harmony. There are days when Dad is too tired to talk, when Mom is frustrated, when Mira is slamming doors, when Grandmother is complaining about noise. I've seen tears, I've heard sharp words, but I've also seen apologies. Quiet ones. Dad making tea for Mom after an argument. Mira sneaking into my room with a shy, "Sorry." Mom sitting by Grandmother holding her hand when she's unwell. That's what family is, I think. Not the absence of conflict, but the constant return to love. When I think of my happiest memories, they aren't big, expensive events. They're small, ordinary moments, like rainy afternoons when Mom made pakoras and we all sat near the window, watching raindrops race each other, like summer nights on the terrace where Dad pointed at constellations and told us their names, like festival mornings when the whole house smelled of sweets and incense and grandmother's bangles jingled as she worked. These moments don't make headlines, but they make a life. And now, as I get older, I think about the future. One day, I might move to a different city. One day, I might have my own family. But no matter where I go, my roots will always be here, with them. I've learned something important. Family isn't just the people you're born with. It's the people who stay, who show up, who love you in every version of yourself. My family has seen me at my best and my worst. They've celebrated my wins and held me through my losses. And if I had to sum it all up, as I sit here thinking about my family, another wave of memories comes rushing in. Some ordinary, some powerful enough to change the way I see them forever. One of the strongest memories I have is the day I left home for the first time. I had been accepted into a college in another city. It wasn't too far, a few hours by train, but far enough that I wouldn't be home every night. I still remember the night before I left. The house felt different, heavier somehow. Mom was packing my bag for the 10th time, checking if I had enough clothes, medicines, even snacks. "Mom," I said, half laughing, "I'm not going to the moon. I can buy things there." She gave me that look only mothers can give, a mix of worry and love, and said, "But it won't be the same. You won't have my care there." Dad was quieter than usual, sitting in the corner with his tea. Every now and then he'd say things like, "Keep your wallet safe," or "Don't forget to call when you arrive." His way of showing he cared without saying too much. Mira, on the other hand, kept teasing me. "Finally, I get the whole room to myself," she said, pretending to celebrate. But later that night, I saw her slip a small notebook into my bag. Inside, she had written little notes on random pages. "Study well," "Don't miss me too much," and on one page, a doodle of her making a silly face with the words, "Whenever you feel sad, look at this and laugh." Even grandmother sat with me that evening. She held my hand and said, "Remember, no matter where you go, you carry our blessings with you." The next morning, when I actually left, there were no big speeches or dramatic tears, just small things. Mom adjusted my collar like she always did. Dad handed me an extra 500 rupees, just in case. Mira pretended not to cry, but her eyes were red. Grandmother whispered a prayer under her breath. As the train moved, I watched them fade from view, their faces getting smaller on the platform, and I felt something crack in my chest. That was the first time I truly understood what home meant. Life away from home was exciting, but also strange. The first night in my hostel room, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and realized something was missing. It wasn't just my bed or my pillow, it was the sounds. No mom's voice calling out from the kitchen, no dad's footsteps in the hallway, No Mira barging in to steal my charger. No grandmother's evening prayer. I called home that night. Mom picked up, and just hearing her say, "Hello, Beta," made my throat tighten. "How are you?" she asked. "I'm fine," I said, but my voice cracked a little. She didn't say much, just, "Eat well, sleep on time." But her voice was like a warm blanket. Dad took the phone next. He didn't ask about my feelings. He asked about practical things. "Did you find the bus stop? Is the lock on your door working?" But I knew, in his own way, he was saying, "I'm thinking about you every minute." Mira grabbed the phone after that. "Don't get all serious there," she said. "Remember to laugh, and don't forget my notebook." And grandmother's voice came last, shaky but strong. "I prayed for you twice today, once for your safety and once for your happiness." Being away taught me something I could never have learned if I stayed at home. It made me see my family from a distance, and that made me appreciate them more. I noticed the little things I had taken for granted, like Mom's cooking, not just the taste, but the comfort of it. Like how Dad always fixed things before they broke. Light bulbs, switches, leaking taps, so smoothly that I never noticed how much he did. Like how Mira filled the house with noise. Annoying sometimes, yes, but also alive. Like how grandmother's slow stories were actually threads tying us to who we are. When I came back home for the first holiday, the house felt different. Not because they had changed, but because I had. I saw every detail more sharply. The peeling paint on the kitchen door, the smell of incense in grandmother's room, the sound of Mira's music playing too loud. When Mom hugged me at the door, she held me a little longer. Dad smiled, that small, quiet smile of his. Mira shouted, "You're back!" like she hadn't been counting the days on her calendar. That night, we had dinner together, and it felt like I had been thirsty for months and was finally drinking water. There are many moments like that, little turning points that deepen my love for them, like the time grandmother fell ill. It wasn't sudden, but it still felt like it hit us all at once. She had been coughing for weeks, and one day she fainted in the kitchen. We rushed her to the hospital. For the first time, I saw my dad look scared, truly scared. He stood by her bed, holding her hand, his face tight. Mom stayed by grandmother day and night, barely eating, barely sleeping. Mira cried quietly in her room when she thought no one was looking. I tried to be strong, but inside, I felt this deep, hollow fear. What if we lose her? But slowly, she got better. The first time she sat up and smiled weakly at us, it felt like the sun coming out after days of rain. When we brought her home, she said, "I'm not leaving you all yet. I still have more stories to tell." And we all laughed, but I think all of us silently promised that day to treasure her stories even more. Sometimes I think about how one day this house will change. One day, Mira might get married and move out. One day I might live in another city for work. One day, grandmother might not be here to tell her stories. The thought scares me, but it also reminds me, don't wait to love your family later. Love them now. Now, when Mom calls me to the kitchen to taste a dish, I don't roll my eyes. I go. When Dad asks me to sit with him and read the paper, I don't say, I'm busy. When Mira drags me into a silly argument, I laugh with her. When grandmother starts a story I've already heard 100 times, I still listen. Because one day, those moments will be memories, and I want them to be full ones. Family is not just blood. It's not just people living under one roof. It's the love that stays even when you fight, the care that shows even when it's silent, and the roots that hold you steady when the world feels unsteady. My family isn't perfect. We argue, we annoy each other, we make mistakes, but if you peel away all the layers, there's something unbreakable underneath. Love. And that love is my foundation, my forever home, no matter where I go.